All right, on to the next question. From PhysioStrength NYC. What would you say is the most pragmatic and valid way to objectively measure fatigue?
So I'm not actually going to answer this question.
Perfect.
Well, I will, but it may not be the answer you're looking for. The most pragmatic and valid way to objectively measure fatigue is probably not the best way to measure fatigue. I say that because there was not a meta-analysis. There was a systematic review that came out not all that long ago. I want to say 2016. Title was Monitoring the Athlete Training Response, Subjective Self-Reported Measures Trump Commonly Used Objective Measures, a systematic review. And the title kind of gives the game away there. So based on the measures of stress and fatigue that we have, it seems that subjective measures tend to work better than objective measures, both for predicting subsequent changes in performance and also for predicting the deleterious things that tend to come with excess fatigue. So here we're talking about increased injury risk, risk of developing infections or illness, which can happen with overtraining. So it seems that for the most part, subjective assessments of perceived energy, perceived stress, perceived fatigue, perceived mood tend to do a better job of actually assessing athlete fatigue than objective measures do. An exception to that might be if you are purely an aerobic athlete. Heart rate variability seems to be a pretty decent indicator of fatigue in aerobic athletes. Almost all of that research is either looking at aerobic athletes or like heart failure patients. There's, I think, one study on strength athletes, and it was looking at using HRV to kind of like assign training frequency and not so much how well it tracked with some like gold standard measure of fatigue, which I'm not really even sure what that would be. So yeah, objective measures, not that good. Subjective measures, pretty good. If you have some sort of sleep tracking device, if you're interested in something objective, that could be pretty decent as well. So a leading indicator of fatigue and overtraining that often, not always, but often kicks in before you actually start seeing drops in performance is sleep quality and duration start decreasing. So you're really tired, but you can't sleep. You're waking up more frequently in the middle of the night. It takes longer to fall asleep, etc. Generally, if you're tired, you're supposed to be able to sleep like a baby. Or, maybe you're just someone who has sleep issues all the time and you still just have sleep issues all the time. But if you generally sleep good and you generally sleep better when you're fatigued, and suddenly you're even more fatigued and you're suddenly sleeping worse, that is a marker of fatigue and possible overtraining that you can quantify objectively if you have some sort of sleep tracker device, but you can also quantify that subjectively. I mean, like, most of us know if our sleep quality sucks, or at least have a pretty decent idea of it. So yeah, most pragmatic and valid objective thing you can use, HRV if you're an endurance athlete, maybe some sort of sleep monitor for anyone else, but for the most part, subjective measures of mood and perceived fatigue and stress seem to be more useful for most athletes.